Oh boy. Looks like we're gonna have one last stream. Going away August 1st, so the little pop-up tells me. I wonder what they're gonna do. Who knows? I gotta figure out, it's been so long since I actually did this, I gotta figure out how all this works again. And pull up chat and whatnot. Mute that and do this and do that and yada. Oh, there's already people on here? Really? Fantastic. How is everybody doing? Oh, my camera doesn't work. Let's see. Maybe I can fix that. Hey, Valerie. How you doing? Is it on? Hey, I'm on. Wow. Doesn't look very good when it's streaming on the web. Well, greetings all. Looks like it's going to be the last stream we're going to see. Yeah, I mean, I can still stream. I have OBS Studio. I've actually accidentally streamed on several times through OBS Studio. I have to get that set up correctly to do it. But honestly, there's no reason that I would stream on anything unless I have other people. And I don't know how to do that. I know Jason wants to use Skype and record and do all that, and I hate Skype. I don't like doing that. Yeah, I don't know, Valerie, if you want to come on, I can send you the link. I think it still works like it used to, where you just click the link, as far as I know. So yeah, here we are. We're gonna figure out what we're gonna do for our streams. As far as I know, there are a lot of like podcasting software and things out there. I've used Wirecast and things like that before, but that there's no cameras or anything. It's just two people talking. That might work. I don't know. Not huge on my list, but I figured I would take the opportunity before tomorrow to put my last stream out there. I just finished, anyone who watches Basics of the Bible, I just finished Joseph, and I'll render that and put that up tomorrow. Joseph is a cool story, one of my favorites. Authorized KJV, a Bible study, perhaps, live on the interwebs. Could. I do a lot better job when I do that pre-recorded, because sometimes if I go through notes, I am a lot better off the cuff as putting my words together and where my thoughts want to go than I am actually reading from a list and specific bullet points that I want to talk about. But in a Bible study, that's exactly what I do, is have specific scriptures already presented and already researched and already put forward. I don't know how that would work in a live environment. It'd be a lot of me flipping pages. So I don't know what you guys think, or if you guys use anything else or what for streaming or anything that's like Google Hangouts. I think everything is essentially going to be the same, except it's not automatically going to be live. And I'm assuming Google is doing this for copyright reasons. They don't want live streaming and conversations between people that they have to moderate or anything like that. That would be my guess. Google doesn't care. They're still going to have Google Hangouts as far as talking from person to person, as far as what I understand. All right, so hi, Michael. Hi, random guy. Valerie's here with her wrench. Go knock people out. YouTube might have something in place of Hangouts. Hangouts is staying, but it's moving to more like a Skype thing, where it's really only used for communication. And I'm sure you could record the Google Hangout if you wanted to and then upload it later, but it's not going to be a live back and forth that automatically renders to, and it's already sitting on YouTube. You're going to have to take it, render it, and upload it, which is not quite the same thing. Then you don't have the chat and the audience feedback. You pretty much have to upload it and do a Google Premiere where you create a video and then you upload it and then you sit there and talk with people as you're showing it, I guess. YouTube changes a lot of things. Yeah, I'm not liking their studio beta. They want to hide a lot of the analytics that they were showing you before. I wonder why. With all the people that are getting marginalized and kicked off the internet. Yeah, I guess I should count myself lucky that I'm still seen in the United States and some of Britain and South Africa. Yeah. And no, Valerie, Canada doesn't count. You're just another state to us. So, yeah, I don't know, most of the people on my channel are pretty Bible versed, so they might not do Bible basics stuff. I don't know if any of you guys got any ideas. I finished up Genesis today, and most everybody knows the story of Moses, even people that aren't Christians or know anything about the Bible. So I'll probably kind of gloss over that. I don't know what stories you'd want to hear as a narrative form, which might be good to cover. I mean, of course, I'm going to cover Jonah again. I like that book. We'll keep doing that, but I want to keep it somewhat sort of in order. If I kind of hunt and peck through Exodus a little bit as kind of a general what's going on through Moses and the law, Joshua's got some really neat stuff, especially some very good historical Bible stuff where I can start actually bringing in archaeologists that what they have found about Joshua and stuff. Spontaneous live stream with chat. Yeah, well, you're welcome to come up here. It's pretty late, so I don't know how many people are going to hang out. I really don't have anything to talk about. I didn't. And it's like, oh, I suppose I should live stream. 'Cause I haven't done my own stream in a long time. Done my own. Who wants to talk about dispensational salvation? I think they, I think they finally gave up on that. You think? I think they finally gave up on dispensational salvation. Gene Kim moved on. He's like, nah, we're done with that. Dispensational salvation and the doctrine of exceptions. If it doesn't fall into dispensational salvation, it's a doctrine of exception, meaning everybody you read about in the Bible is actually an exception to the rule of saved by works and faith. Another here, no, anointed by Christ. Rapture ready. How's it going? King's Table, how's it going? You're not streaming tonight, King's Table, for your last hurrah for hangouts, I guess. For who knows? They're going to replace it with something because the big thing that they make money off of is chat. If you do a super chat and enable that on your feed, 30% of everything that people donate goes to Google. And I can't imagine them throwing that out the window. I'm going to see that there's going to be some sort of a replacement for that, maybe. When you go through software and create a live stream in like OBS Studio, it does automatically do all that stuff too. So you still have a chat window and things. I don't know how that would work with super chats and things like that. But I don't know. I don't have to worry about it. Yeah. 3:57 a.m. UK time. You're up early. What am I at? 10 o'clock at night. That's where I'm at. Yeah, super chat, 30%. I imagine that they're going to implement something when nobody takes the time to download OBS Studio and figure out how to work it. I mean, I've played around with it and I've done some videos with it, but who wants to, when you go from basically not having to do anything to get your content up and have, several people on joining together in a discussion and have it all recorded, it's just too easy to take that and then go to something like OBS Studio. Nobody's going to do that. They're all just going to go to Twitch where, yeah, where you can do it over there. Um, Twitch doesn't allow religious stuff though. They don't allow religious channels. It has to be all entertainment and video games and nonsense. They won't allow politics, religion, or anything. Only stuff that doesn't matter. Very much about that. Yeah, OBS, you can set it to OBS is laggy. When I accidentally streamed, I had all my quality settings up, and the best internet that I can get out here is like $60 a month, and that it's like 2.5 megabit or megabyte down, which a $10 service from Comcast in the cities is about that. For the $10 most basic you can get, and the $60 service is 100 megabit down in the cities. The best anybody can get out here is 2.5 megabit. So I can't. I have to upload on like crap settings probably through OBS and not run a camera and all that. Pablo, where is Robert? Well, he's home. He's doing whatever he does. He did a Bible study on James the other day. I keep in touch with him. He's doing all right. Oh, everyone wants to be mad at me because he's part of the dispensational salvation thing. And just so everybody knows, I've known that for a year. I've known that since before I started doing live streams with him, and I've gone back and forth with him. But back then it was like, that just doesn't sound right to me, dispensational salvation and people getting saved different. And I didn't really look into it much. And I'm like, oh, okay, so the Jews had to work for salvation. Whatever. Not that big of a deal. But then coming to find out that really you're cutting up the Bible and you're really only Paul is all you listen to and everything else is to the Jews. And there's a lot more to it that I didn't know about at the time and whatever. I mean, it is what it is. I'm still friends with the guy. It's honestly, it's not just necessarily going after Robert or going after Gene. You got to go to the source, which is Peter Ruckman. Peter Ruckman's the one who teaches that. That's where Brian gets his messed up doctrine, and Gene and all these other guys. Anybody who talks about faith, anyone who talks about salvation works differently in different dispensations is going to be a Peter Ruckman guy. Nobody else, nobody, zero. There is nobody else who does it. Now, if people have something similar to that, they're not dispensationalist. For instance, Seventh-day Adventist. They hold to a similar doctrine to that, but they still believe that it's the faith that ultimately saves you. It's the works that proves your faith. So it's a lordship salvation setup where if you didn't do the works, it shows that you weren't saved, sort of a deal. But they're non-dispensationalist. Anybody who calls themselves a dispensationalist believes that you're saved by faith through grace, regardless of the dispensation, except the Ruckman crowd. Well, anyways, and yeah. Hasn't any always been saved by faith? Yeah. Peter Ruckman, he's a smart guy, but it depends on the video you see. He's got some other videos where he's questioning and answering, and you wouldn't like the answers that he gives about about some topics out there. I was gonna put it up, but I'm like, that's really not gonna do anybody any good. To splice together a whole bunch of stuff that came out of Ruckman's mouth. Eh, you pretty much just be aware of it. Dispensational salvation, he was messed up on, and he's really messed up on his race ideas. But again, we're talking about a guy who kind of grew up in that 1940s and 50s when all that stuff was kind of still happening. You know, you still had segregation and things up until the 60s. Gary Gothland, Worm dieth not. I'm not sure what you're referring to there. Michael Sangarardi. Pre-trib. Yes, I am pre-trib. Well, thank you for your prayers, Han Solo. Following a man instead of Christ with the Ruckmanites, they have this weird fascination, almost a love affair with Peter Ruckman. Just idolize the guy to death, and I don't know exactly why. These are people that have probably seen him in person. They start adopting his mannerisms. They start saying, man after everything that they say. Every time they make a point, they go, man. Very, very strange with the guys that are, and I don't see anybody acting, Chuck Missler's got a lot of followers too. I don't see people adopting his mannerisms. Yeah. Denlinger thinks that means people turn into worms if they go to hell. They all have kooky ideas. And it's okay to have kooky ideas. I said when I was streaming with Jason, I have a kooky idea that I'm a geocentrist because the earth was created first. It doesn't move, it says in the Bible. Everything else was created later. So when you take into context the order of things in creation, Um, you're just gonna, according to science now, the Earth moves at 25,000 miles an hour through space, and it spins at 2,000 miles an hour. So if you're starting with the Earth, and then you're just gonna what? Start spinning it and throwing it through, hurling it through space around the sun when the sun is created, and that's not gonna mess anything up, right? And of course, the other big proof text of the reason that I hold that everything spins around us is that we have Joshua, where he needs a couple of more hours in the day so he could win a battle. And he prays to God to give him a couple more hours, and God stops the sun and the moon. Now, did the earth come to a dead stop there? Because if the earth came to a dead stop, that's going to cause some problems. And even if you brought the earth to a dead stop, that's going to stop the sun from moving, but it's not going to stop the moon. The moon rotates around the earth. So you're still going to have movement in the moon. And the Bible is specific that both the sun and the moon were stopped so that the hours of our day were. So that would be a kooky doctrine of mine. Okay. I can justify it as a kooky doctrine, but it's not something that's absolutely necessary. Now you take a Denlinger doctrine. His kooky idea is his kooky idea for a little bit until it comes out later in a video that you have to believe like this. Otherwise, you're not saved. If you don't believe in segregation, you're not saved. If you don't believe pre-trib rapture, you're not saved. I mean, not that pre-trib is a kooky idea, but it's just an example. You got some very strange ideas. If you go to a church, you're not saved. If you go to a church building, you're not saved. Right? Your alternative is to listen to him and all of his shenanigans. And of course send him money. Hey Jason, how you doing? Oh, anti-Trinity thing. Um, yeah, I don't care. I don't care what people believe on the Trinity. And it's like you can argue it back and forth, but is it a required doctrine that you must believe in three persons in one? No. I'm more interested in how people arrive at the conclusion of modalism and whatever they happen to choose for what they believe in than I am actually in what they ultimately believe in. And that tends to be a lot more interesting. Um, I'm effectively a Trinitarian, but I'm, I know there are some people where that's their core doctrine or their core issues. And for some people, it might be dispensational salvation, which is more of a core issue for me. Other people, it might be pre-trib rapture, this, that, and the other thing. But you know, a lot of those things are hard to be super dogmatic on, except when you're attacking the attributes of God, which would be dispensational salvation. I'm very dogmatic on being anti that, whatever that is, this God that changes depending on who you are. If you're lucky enough to have your name written in the Bible somewhere, you can mess up all you want to and you're still eternally secured. But if you're just the goat farmer out there who's not in the Bible, then you have to follow all these works to get into heaven. You're not one of the exceptions. Yeah, everyone's got their own little pet doctrines. And there's nothing wrong with that. Having ideas, teaching them as this is the way that it is. You know, I believe the giants in the old days and the angels messing around with women and stuff like that was a real thing that happened, and not all Christians believe that. I believe the generations of Noah being perfect or whatever is referring to his genetics and his DNA, or I think Ed does not. Ed believes that he was always faithful or something. He believes differently than that. Yeah. God doesn't change, his program does. Yeah, essentially in dispensations, but when you're coming in how God deals with people, he deals with people differently at different times during history for their physical salvation and their physical trials, their physical blessings and curses. As far as eternal salvation has always been faith in God. That really hasn't changed. The object of one's faith, you could call it, or the content, or what your faith is being put in is what changes. And people will say, well, like in the work salvation thing, they justify works being in the millennium because God is physically on the planet, ruling and reigning from Jerusalem. So how could you not have faith with God there? Just like Adam couldn't have been saved by faith because God was walking around with them. But the Jews, they had to be saved by, faith and works, and they needed that faith. And it's like, well, there are still people in the Jews that were lost, and they had God with them in the desert, was feeding them manna for 40 years. How do you not have faith in that? Oh, well, see, faith doesn't count. Therefore, it has to be works. But there were still people who didn't have faith back then, even though God was right there, even though they knew it. There are a lot of people in the Old Testament who feared God, the real God. They may have had their idols and stuff, but they all understood who God was. What about Melchizedek? Oh, he's one of the exceptions. He didn't have to do no works because he's Melchizedek. He's an exception. His yoke is easy and burden is light. Yeah, depending on how you want to look at it, depending on where you live. I mean, certainly for Americans, I wouldn't necessarily want to be in some radical Muslim country. And a lot of people want to talk about, turning those places into glass. We've got these Islamic folks that want to kill all these Christians and just people in general, convert them to Islam or do all these bad things and do all these terrorist acts and things. And it's like, why isn't God dealing with them and wiping these people out? Well, number one, they're already in really, really poor conditions. They're not exactly blessed. Okay. And another reason they're not getting wiped out is because one of the biggest evangelistic people coming into Christianity is out of Muslims. So you have all of these pocket groups of Christians in there amongst the Muslims that are converting people. It's another reason those places, you don't just turn some country to glass, like Afghanistan's a pretty bad country. Hey, Afghanistan's a pretty bad country. Just for the average Joe to be walking around, you want to throw Christianity on top of it, you're really asking for problems. But there are Christians there. Christians in Iraq and Iran, and well, Iraq now probably because we kind of took that over. It's probably not going to get blown up in Iraq, but in Iran, Saudi Arabia, North Korea, which I think they're just an atheist communistic. It's weird. Why do they have problems with Jesus? I never understood that. You would think that Jesus would kind of fall right into, love your brother as yourself sort of thing. Never understood why communism didn't like it. It's probably that whole thing where you put God above everything else, including the government, and I guess the dictator can't handle that. Would be the Lordship Salvation song. I don't have my acoustic over here, otherwise I could do it. That's the other thing that's going on. I fixed my roof, Valerie. How about that? I didn't have to pay nobody. I've had this whining. I thought it was my monitor. All of my equipment is about 10 years old. I was able to replace my computer last year, right at the end of the year, because that was overheating every time that I would render a video, regardless of how long it was. So I had to replace that, but all of the rest of my stuff was about 10 years old, and I heard this high-pitched whine, like a capacitor going out or something, right around where my monitor is, and I'm like, if this thing just goes out, I'm just kind of out of luck because I need two screens to do what I do. So I went ahead and bought a new screen and set the whole thing up and got it all set and go to record the first video and got the same sound going through my microphone. I'm like, what? And I figure out it's actually my broadcasting speaker setup. It's like a monitor setup for doing podcasts, where I can plug my guitar and 2 microphones into the speakers, and there's gain for each and headphones for each, and they don't build anything like it anymore. So I don't know what I'm gonna do when that craps out. But, like, all of my stuff is 10 years old. Just kinda waiting for it to kick the bucket. Yeah. Yeah, the couple $100 I don't have for my monitor that didn't need to be replaced. And my it's a Samsung Studio GT, which is like 150 or $200 was the setup that I got, but 120 of that is the microphone, this one, that comes in the box set, and I can't get just the speakers, which need to be replaced, and nobody makes anything like it. And in order to replace them, I have to buy 3 other different pieces of equipment, a mixer and different speakers and a headphone setup or something. I don't know. I'm just gonna wait until the thing starts on fire and then just kinda maybe just use a headset or something. I don't know. I don't know. My roof is fixed. Even if I have this hissing going through my headphones, I don't care. My roof's fixed. I got a channel where you play piano and white Fender guitar. Yeah, the speaker setup, if I could get it to work, it doesn't work with Google Hangouts, but normally I can just take an electric guitar, plug it straight into my speaker here, and it works like a microphone. It doesn't actually I can hear it in my ears, but it doesn't broadcast through Google Hangouts. Otherwise, I could actually do the Lordship Salvation song. Jason says, "Do you think YouTube will bring in something similar to Google Hangouts?" Google Hangouts isn't going anywhere, Jason. The only thing that's changing with Google Hangouts is it no longer uploads to YouTube. So it's still gonna be there. It's gonna be part of a chat and communicate, sort of a social program app, kinda like basically, it's gonna be Skype. Where but it's not gonna upload to, create a video on YouTube. So that's it. Bobby, my microphone sounds good. Yeah, it's a good microphone. A little old, but it works. Price bearing, yeah, everything is good. I fixed my roof. I fixed my welder. I bought that thing new and I only got it to strike an arc once. Anyone who knows about garage stuff. And I got mad at it and threw it on the ground and sort of broke it. And I put it back together again. And got it all sort of working as to where it should work. And this is a wire feed MIG welder. And apparently these things are like, oh, a child can use it, right? I'm used to the old style stick welders, like 240 watt, 150 amp. You turn the thing on and it sounds like a transformer outside your house, and you put sticks in them and you weld with that. Okay. That's what I'm used to. I got this, a MIG welder that babies can use, right? And I can't get the thing to work for nothing. I can't strike an arc on anything. I don't know what the problem is. And I go up and after I put the thing back together, um, after I put the thing back together, I look on the forum boards as to what's going on here. And one of the things was a condescending response to this guy who was having a problem not striking an arc. And it was, you realize you have to hold the trigger down in order to keep the arc going. And I'm like, what? What? Because on these welders, when you hold the trigger down, it makes the wire come out so you can weld. And it won't even do anything unless you hold the trigger down. In my mind, I'm like, you want to make sure you can arc on something first before you have wire coming out of your tool. So I'm trying to get an arc on something without hitting the button that spools the wire out. Because if you don't get an arc, then you have to clip the wire off, right? Anyway, you guys probably don't know anything about welding, but I feel like the biggest idiot in the planet. Now I lost a whole year of practicing welding now because of that. Yeah. So we get that little aside from Bible stuff to how poor I am and how broken my stuff is. Huh? Oh, Jason for recording Google Hangouts. Yeah, that might be how it works. I don't know. 'cause, the way that they want you to stream now is actually going through OBS Studio or some sort of other software. Put in a stream key, and then it'll automatically start a session for you, and that will give you chat and everything. But I know in OBS, there's no way you can invite another person in that I know of, but I'm not big on OBS, I know how to use it for this and that. Yeah. Jason, you wanna come on? Sure. Yeah, if anyone if anyone's got questions that are directly to me, put the at max thing so I can see him. All right, let's see if I can remember how to do this. All right, Jason, I think that has it. Valerie liked the welding mask. Yeah, yesterday I built a fire. I don't have anything to do a fireside chat thing with other than a crappy tablet like you do. You're all set up for that. Um, yeah, I had to while I did that, I cleaned out my dad's welding mask that's like 35 years old, never been cleaned. Valerie, will the welding mask work for the eclipse? Yes, definitely. On the subject of welding, the reason that you need a special mask for welding is there's a chemical reaction that takes place when you're welding, and it's not just the brightness of the flash. It is bright. I mean, you could probably get away with wearing sunglasses just for the flash, but there is radiation that comes off of that. Okay, and your eyes are super sensitive to it. Your skin and stuff like that, it doesn't affect it at all. But your eyes, because they're your eyes, they get burned from this radiation that comes off of it. That's why you need the special glass in the welding helmets, and why the welding helmets are usually like 30 bucks and no cheaper is because that stuff is expensive to manufacture. If you got cheaper than a $30 welding helmet, I wouldn't use it. I wouldn't use it. Valerie, another chat next week. Well, you have to figure out how to use OBS Studio because apparently I got the pop up today as I was doing it, August 1st or whatever. This is supposedly going away. We'll see. We'll see. Have I heard of Standing for Truth? Yes, I watch him on the modern debate thing. I I check, I like modern day debate, and it's nice that he puts together the format, but some of the people, I think he j he just wants to have content on there every day. So a lot of the people that are on there really don't know what they're talking about. Especially it's usually a creation thing where you have atheist versus so and so, and I watched the one recently on would the animals fit on Noah's boat sort of thing, and I like stuff like that, and the guy that they had on was his argument was, "I don't believe that the animals would fit." It was all based on his feelings and his beliefs and his imagination about, "Well, I don't think that the water and the animals and the food would all fit on the boat. Why not?" "Well, there's just logistics in there." And it's like, you don't have an argument. And no, he didn't have an argument. He just wanted to be on there and have a format where he could troll the guy on there. I actually have it up somewhere, I think, too, what the guy's name is. He's a black guy. I haven't watched any of his stuff yet, but I subbed to him to check some things out. Let's see. G-Man was on there. And he didn't, he knew a bit, the G-Man guy, and but he pointed out right away that this atheist guy he's just up there trolling, and there's really no point. And a lot of the debates, unfortunately, are like that on modern day debate. But some of the people I do check out if I'm impressed with what they're saying. Yeah, there's some really that's the thing is it's a real mixed bag. You'll have some really high level people on there having really good discussions, and then some other nights you'll just have trash. But yeah, Standing for Truth, I've watched some of his stuff. He's okay. He's alright. Oh, Last Generation, Brett's on here too. How you doing, man? How you doing? We're talking about welding and everything. Welding and roofs and streaming going away. And Jason, I sent you a link. I think that's the link that you use, as far as I know. Have you seen any videos from Grace Bible Community Church? They made a video on Robert. Question from Pac-Man Jake. If you could refresh my memory, it sounds very familiar. It sounds very familiar. But there's, how is it not working, Jason? Like, what does it give you an error, or is it just doesn't let you connect, or you don't get the window, or? Yeah, I don't watch a whole lot of people. Um, I just don't have time to. And it's pretty rare that I look up a subject. For instance, if you people ask me like who to listen to and who's a good guy to listen to, I generally just say look up what topic you're interested in and listen to a few different people, and you find one you like, listen to them. And I haven't really had to look up topics. I looked up dispensational salvation pretty much recently is about it. And some things that are non-Bible related I've looked up on YouTube. So you got the link, it just doesn't want to work. Maybe I can do it a different way. Okay, so I'll use that link, which should be the same link as the one I send you. It is a shorter link. I'm replying to the one that you sent me about some guy who's using your pirated account. Your video that you did on that. That's too bad that someone stole your name. Someone took mine, all they get is a boxer or a German general from World War II. One of the two. That's weird. I actually look better on the chat screen than I do on what the one my camera actually says it looks like. Oh, well, that's good for me. The Shadows covered Authorized KJV. The Shadows covered some groups in the 90s in their album Reflection. I don't know the question when or who it was from, but someone mentioned something about Metallica. Well, if you want to know where I learned to play, that was it. After school every single day for a year or two, I would put on one of the 5 albums they had at the time, and which I just kind of at random, whenever I felt like playing, and throw it in there and just play along to the CD. So I got pretty good at that stuff back in the day, and that was where a lot of my roots came from. And everything else, when you play, it's not like Metallica's complicated, but when you're used to playing that fast and your muscle memory is for playing notes that fast is good enough where you can kind of sort of play just about anything. Also, for anyone who's interested in guitar, Rocksmith. People video games, they'll send you to hell. If you want a chance going to hell, they got Rocksmith. That came out There's a couple of versions. 2014 is the most recent one, where it's like Guitar Hero, except you use a real guitar. I'm been playing for many, 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 many a years, and I still get a kick out of that. Songs I've never even heard before to see how well I do. Yeah.
Hi Max, I'm on now. That small link worked.
All right. Well, good, good. How you been?
Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, I had to do a live earlier today to cover that video that guy had on me. That was almost 10 years ago. Someone hacked all my accounts and then started typing stuff in my own name.
So that's recently that this is happening?
Uh, the guy who did the video on me rebuking me and saying that I'm not saved, he did that recently 4 days ago. But someone posted a link on my channel on the
Yeah.
comment, and then I watched it, and and the hacking was nearly 10 years ago. I've moved on,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm
And people
I
are still using your stuff then, huh?
yeah. Yeah. The JCiSwing2 Twitter account is my Twitter account. I created it after I was hacked.
Hmm.
See,
So
so
good. Those are persistent hackers that keep using your account.
but they haven't tweeted since 2009.
Yeah. So this
So,
is
but
where this guy is pulling his information from stuff from 2009, or
he's one of Denlinger's for followers. That's
ah.
the thing. See, and he's saying that I'm not saved, but all he thinks that calling upon the Lord save you and works. And
Hmm.
if you're not doing works, you're not saved. Or if you're sinning, he's looking at other people sinning. And so I had a look at that guy's channel, and he's looking at everyone's sins.
Oh,
So I'm not
well,
doing that.
that's to be expected from that crowd, right?
Yep. He's from Scotland too. Well, like not just the UK, but I know now Scotland. Whereabouts exactly?
Yeah, well, it's the internet. When you
Yeah,
put stuff on the internet, people are gonna mess
told
with you.
he is anyway. His name's Aaron.
Mm-hmm.
Real name. So that's why I put his real name on the thing, and then his username in brackets on my video.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's how people work. They get mad, and then all of a sudden they dig up stuff on you, and that's unfortunate.
He's him and other people did that, but they're mad because I'm having a go at had a go at, because I do videos on Denlinger. That is why they're upset. That's why. That's
Yeah. There isn't too many of them vehement Denlinger supporters around anymore. I think a lot of them kind of fled.
right.
I'm not sure. I know Denlinger puts up a video like once a week, and it's a pretty weak video.
Yep.
He's not doing too much.
But there's still 31,000 subs, though, including me. I'm always subbed. Hello, Val.
Hi, how are you doing?
How you doing, Valerie?
I'm all
I'm
right. How are you, Max?
Oh, I'm dry.
That's good.
We're
From
dry.
your roof leak, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't
Yeah, I'm
shingle
on.
it right around the vent. And so
That's right.
luckily I had some leftover shingle. I could fix it. So I don't know if I
That's good.
fixed it yet. We haven't had a good storm to find out, but I would expect it did, because I also put a bucket of tar on it. So one of them's gonna fix it.
I was gonna suggest maybe get a hose
Yeah, I did. That was the
and test it.
problem. We had a really, really bad storm, tornado warnings and everything all over the place, and 35, 40 mile an hour winds at least. Probably some hail in that, and dumped gallons and gallons of rain. And so it leaked like a half a gallon or so. We got an ice cream pail there. And okay, so it rained really hard. Maybe it just got into the vent from raining really hard. And then it rained not so bad and it was leaking again. And I'm like, well, geez. I go up there and I tarred it where I thought the leak was around where they put the vent in. I hate those vents. And I did that and I'm like, well, it has to be fixed now. And I go and I test it with the hose for like 10 minutes, spraying water over the thing. No leaks at all.
Yep.
A couple of days later, we get a sprinkle and it leaks. I'm like, what? What are you kidding me? So yeah, it didn't want to leak when I wanted it to leak. But yeah, for all I know, it's
Oh.
all fixed now.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. I see you got the Google Hangouts working. Are you on Hangouts or just live stream?
I'm doing it the same way as I've always done it.
Hangouts.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not doing anything different. When I clicked it though, they said you got a good 3 hours and then you're done. Because
Yep.
apparently August 1st it's turned off.
That's right.
Well,
For YouTube, but apparently Max said Google Hangouts will still be, but not for YouTube. So I've got to speak to Andrew about what program to capture Hangouts, and then I can still have people on Hangouts recorded and put it on Premiere. It's scheduled.
Yeah.
That's what I can do, and then people can still chat.
I don't like doing that because I don't want to watch my own video.
Yeah.
then you have to. You have to.
I'm literally I'm not going to sit there, especially if I do a 45-minute thing and edit the whole thing. I probably when I actually have to go in and edit and do stuff like that, the last thing I want to do is watch it again. And
that's what I mean. It's a little inconvenient, but I was wondering if you could do that and then just render it yourself and then upload it to YouTube.
And you can still do live.
That?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. It's just like uploading a regular video. It's just not as convenient. And, like I said, I think that once Google realizes that nobody is live streaming anymore when there's no Google Hangouts option, they'll probably come in with a new Google Live or something, which will be the same sort of the thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have a feeling somebody bought them out. So
I don't know because they make a lot of money off live chat, top chat, whatever they call it. They have a power chat, or I forget what it's called now. They make 30 if someone donates $100 through the super chat, it's called. They keep 30 of it. I mean, and then you go through PayPal fees and everything else. So you at the end of the day, you get about half of whatever is donated through that. So they make a ton of money. And I can't see them doing away with the Google Hangouts to make it that much easier to do super chats and things. Because when you go through a third-party software, you don't even have to have Google open. It just streams to your channel. And how super chats and those things work, I don't know. It seems like a pain to me. I know I'm not gonna do it.
Because like I said, it seems like it's inconvenient. I like this because it's more spontaneous and it's live. It's live.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So
and there are things out there where you can do where it's live, but not with picture. Like Wirecast is out there where you can stream, but you won't have pictures, and it doesn't automatically cut back and forth to who's talking and all that stuff. So I don't know. There are other options. I'm sure they'll come out with something. Someone will fill the void.
Well, I hope so because I'm going to miss Google Hangouts. That's for sure because I enjoy it.
Yep, same here.
I just went to chat. Sorry if you can hear that.
Yep.
Okay.
Authorized KJV 1611. Brian got Isaiah 53 wrong, saying the Father's soul was made an offering for sin, and it makes no sense. Yeah, you find that out a lot about Brian Denlinger, and in whatever he says. His big thing is if you're a Trinitarian, now you're going to hell. So yeah, he's got all sorts of idiotic ideas in that regard.
Well, that was quite the last video that he made, and I couldn't catch your live stream, Jason, because I was working, but that was quite an interesting video. Christians being Antichrist.
Oh yeah,
and what they're teaching. I mean, he's got the wrong definition of Antichrist.
Yeah,
I think
he does. He doesn't. He wants to be like Gene Kim and be edgy or something and have clickbait titles. That's really what it is. He wants to be clickbaity and edgy. Well, he wants to be clickbaity and edgy, and at the same time be the same kind of humdrum, boring guy. I guess I don't know.
Do you think sometimes he does these videos or live streams for himself?
Well,
And
sure, everyone does it for themselves.
well, well, no, that's not what I mean. I mean, oh,
Brian Brian's video was not live stream, but I wanted to cover the two videos on live stream, and I invited you and Max. You weren't able to come on, Val, but
no,
Max was, and
yes.
so I had fun. But if Max hadn't have bothered, I don't know if I would have done the live stream. I don't know, but
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
when
that's about the only way that I can cover Brian, because I'm not gonna watch a video of his more than once, and I don't need to prepare for it to come up with arguments about anything he's saying. Same thing with Gene Kim. I'll
yep,
watch about what did I watch? Like 2 minutes of his videos he came out with, and I already could tell, okay, this is where he's going with it. And then I just record and see what happens because
yep,
um okay, there's been one time where I've had to restart it because I've thought of something as an argument beforehand, but other than that, it's like I don't need to waste my time sifting through it over and over and over again. This is pretty basic logical fallacy, where you're saved by grace, but then you got to work. I was like, what? Yeah, I mean, it's easy stuff
Well,
to
that's
do.
that's this. Well, that's what I mean about Brian's last video or videos. I'm starting to think that he's doing them to convince himself.
Well,
That's what I meant by doing it for himself.
he always does it so he can whatever he thinks is going to get money. So depending on where his supporter base lies, if his supporters are a bunch of racist and love his segregationalist stuff, he'll probably talk about that. If people really love being modalist, then he'll probably talk about that. Um, that's that's where I'd guess. And he'll try and be as more and more radical. But lately, I've seen, and just the ones in like the last couple of months, he hasn't had anything to really talk about, and they've been basically him telling a story for the entire time. And I thought he was going to go into dispensational salvation with this last one to throw his hat in the ring, but I kind of concluded that he doesn't have anything to say about it because all he learned from Ruckman, and he get destroyed on that. So he quickly switched to, I think he had 5 points of that make a Christian Antichrist or something. And he touched on it on point 1, and before you knew it, he's already talking about point 5, and then he had a point 6. So he didn't know what he was even talking about. He got mixed up between his stories about what point he was supposed to be on.
Yeah, he
So,
seemed to be all over the place.
yeah.
It's
yep.
hard to follow.
Well, and that's because he's busy hanging out at his property that everybody else is paying for, and he's not
Yeah.
putting any effort or any work into it. He's like, "Oh, it's been a week since I did anything. I guess I better put a video out." I know, I'm picking blackberries. I think that was the title of one of his videos. I'm
That's
picking
right.
blackberries. And I
Yeah.
was like, wow, dude, that's totally internet worthy. Picking blackberries. All right.
Yeah, he seems to want to preach a message, but he never really. Well, I've seen him open up his Bible, but he doesn't go verse by verse or try and
No.
teach scripture. He just, I
No.
don't know.
I can't think of the last thing that he's taught beyond modalism. Was that the last thing? And is that where he ended? And then every single thing that he has to say beyond that is anybody who doesn't believe like him is going to hell. I mean, the actual last teaching that I've heard him talk about would be the modalism thing. That was years ago now, a year and a half when he started getting into that.
Do you consider that teaching?
Well, whatever you call it. You could be teaching heresy. You're still teaching, you're still doing stuff.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. Yeah, but
Random guy.
I'd like to see him go verse by verse and but you know what? I think
I think I'm the only guy that does that. I'm amazed. I mean, I can see why
yeah,
the Sunday pastors and stuff up there doing their thing aren't going to read verse by verse and this and that because they kind of have to keep people entertained a little bit. But if I'm teaching like a doctrine or something like that, I read the chapters, and
yes,
as I've seen, I'm the only guy that does that,
yes,
where I go right through it. And if you disagree with me, we were looking at the same scriptures, yeah,
yes.
yeah. Not
Well, it
this,
was
I
this
believe the Bible. I believe the Bible says. The Bible says. And it's like, well, okay, context, You
yeah.
can't just pick like a half a dozen verses and call it good. You have to go through the whole chapter.
Well, for example, the one that he did on depression.
I didn't see it.
Oh,
It would have made me depressed. I don't watch
he
depressing things.
Well, he was reading scripture, but it was all out of context, and it wasn't meaning what it he was taking it all out of context, and the meaning was wrong.
Well,
So you'd have to go back and watch it on Jason's channel.
yeah. Well, you got a guy who believes in segregation for today and all this other stuff. Believes in modalism, and you got to believe he's not taking a whole lot into context. And that goes back to what I was saying
Yeah.
about kooky ideas. Is people can have kooky ideas, but how much does it affect scripture? Okay. Now my kooky idea, that I'm a geocentrist, that does not affect scripture whatsoever. That
Yep.
hasn't, absolutely, who cares? That's just my belief. That doesn't
Yeah.
affect scripture. You take something like dispensational salvation, you just chop the Bible up into a bunch of little bitty pieces. That very much so affects scriptures and how you interpret and look at scriptures. So yeah, Brian's kooky doctrines, he makes them hardcore doctrine. And if you don't believe like him, you're going to hell, and you'll mess up scriptures completely if you believe in really anything that he teaches now. I mean, I'm almost scared to, he had pre-tribulation rapture right for a long time, but by gauging his other stuff that comes out, I can't say that maybe even his rationale for the pre-tribulation rapture might not even all be there. I don't know, because I mean, how can you be that far out there on these things and have that right? Like, are you teaching it right? Are you getting that? Or I don't know. When you go that far out into heresy, I have a real problem listening to what people say. People can get away with quite a bit of kooky stuff with me too. So I got a
Well,
question,
about
Rand.
the Earth not moving. Oops, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to quick answer a question that's been sitting here from random guy. In First Samuel 14 or 15, someone told me that God ordered his people to kill the Amalekites, and saying God is evil for what else? Forgot what else he said. God is evil because he ordered people to kill people. Well, who knows what was going on at the time? There's a lot that's with the God telling people to wipe out Canaanites and war with the Philistines and all that. There's reasons for that we're not cannot be fully aware of.
No.
With that, and each one is a different topic in itself, looking at it kind of sort of dispensationally. But
Well, I think the reasoning for that was because the genetics was all messed up, even
it
in the animals.
that was in for Noah, and that's what
Yeah.
I hold to. And I mentioned that earlier, that I don't think Ed holds to that. I think Ed believes that just Noah was an upstanding guy, and his entire family had worshiped God or something. That's his standing.
Well,
I take the genetics approach to it.
yes,
Um,
yes.
But then after that, when we're talking about Joshua going through the land of Canaan and wiping people out, it says specifically in the Bible to wipe out all the Canaanites. Now, how do you have a non-evil God for wiping out? I mean, and then when you get to Saul gets in trouble because he didn't kill everything that was in the town that he sacked. And it's like I said, we don't know the reasons why God would order that, but maybe the people are all sick. They're all wicked people. We know that the Canaanites were all believed in idol worship. They were sacrificing children to their fake god, and a bunch of things like that. But we don't know the specifics of why God ordered that. I mean, you're talking
Well, he
3,500
didn't
years ago
even,
now,
yeah, and he didn't even want marriage to Canaanites, right?
right?
In my,
For the Jewish
yeah,
people, right?
so, yeah, well, because, yeah,
Yeah, and that's one of those discussions that goes on, and like you have to take specific instances as to why people need to be wiped out. And, if there's like all diseased or something like that, obviously. Normally, what the normal standard thing was for Jews and any other conquering army back in the day was you killed everybody but the women and young children. That was pretty standard practice. And then you made servants out of the people that are left. It was kind of how all of it went. And Jews were no different. Gary Gothland, what is geocentrics? Geocentricity is what we live in. What's taught in schools now is heliocentricity. And helios means the sun. So that means that the sun is the center of the universe, or not universe, center of the solar system. And geocentrist, geo is earth. That means that the Earth is the center of the solar system. So right now we have the sun in the middle and everything moving around the sun. And a geocentrist believes that everything moves around the Earth, and the Earth is the center. Well, I believe the center of the universe. And I have many scientific things that I did years ago that's on my channel and my playlist for Max Bauer, where I go through science and cover that the scientists even agree that we're in a preferred place in the universe as far as where Earth's location is in the universe. So, yeah, geocentrists believe that. And
So
then,
do you think the Earth?
and I was just going to say, and flat Earth people believe the exact same thing, except that the Earth is a flat plane and not a ball.
So you think the Earth doesn't move, Max?
Right. Earth does not spin, does not go through space.
Okay, so I think the Earth moves because we need the Earth has to move in order for us to have gravity.
Well, what is
And all,
gravity? Nobody knows what gravity is.
well, it's an invisible force.
There you go.
Yeah.
Doesn't tell me what it is. And the only gravity is actually just a theory. And what the flat earthers have correct is that generally things fall down because of density and buoyancy. It's not necessarily gravity. And you
No,
also
I
have
don't believe that.
what do you have? Inertia forces and things like that. So if you have gravity in this magic force that does that, but we have no inertia forces at all on Earth, even though we're spinning at 2,000 miles an hour, you'd think that you'd have some sort of a different feeling as you move up closer to the poles and down towards the middle. You'd be spinning faster and slower. And the density and buoyancy thing, yes, the law of gravity is that things fall down. Everything falls down regardless.
Yes. But
What it comes up,
if you have a big ball and a small ball and you drop them at the same time, they both hit the Earth at the same time. So
if there is no
if I'm not
atmosphere,
mistaken.
if they're
Ah,
they will, provided you take out the atmosphere, which the air is the medium that you're going through. So something that's heavier, if you take it in like water, we'll use water as a medium. If you drop something heavier in water and something lighter in water, the heavier one's going to fall first. Same
yes.
thing. Yeah. And it's sort of the same thing with air, but at air, it's harder to see because it's air. But a feather obviously falls a lot slower than a piano. But if you put them in a vacuum, they
Yes.
don't fall at the same speed.
Hmm.
But the reason
Okay.
that you take out density and buoyancy at that point, and the law of gravity is just the simple fact things fall down. But everything
How do
else
you,
is just a theory.
how do you know they're not falling up?
Well, yeah, I guess you could be on a ball Earth there, but they would be falling up. But the theory of gravity is this idea that gravity holds these planets in place, and everything is just a magnetic force, sort of, but it's not magnets, it's gravity, and it holds it all perfectly in place and all this, and everything is zooming around the universe a million miles an hour and all that. That's all theoretical. They don't know that that's what's going on because no one's able to produce gravity. And they say, well, we can't produce it because it takes this mass produces gravity and we can't make anything big enough. So it's a fairy tale. You know, if you can't gauge it, measure it, do anything, it's a fairy tale. That's it. Gravity, we call it 1G. That's what we call it because we decided to call it 1G. And the only way you can test gravity at all is by forces of inertia. Is what we expect is gravity pushing back against us, but we don't know what it is. It's just inertia. But it's funny how all that science goes out the window when they talk about you spinning 2,000 miles an hour on the equator. All that inertia stuff goes out the window. And yep, it's special. I'm going to use the doctrine of exceptions for my spinning Earth policy. Yep.
Okay, I'll leave it at that.
Well, you said you're a geocentrist too, but you think the Earth spins and everything.
No, the Earth spins. It has to spin.
Why do you think it has to?
For seasons.
Yeah, but can't if the sun is.
It's
Let me explain.
solstice.
Okay, yeah, I know what you're saying. Let me explain this how geocentricity works in its core here. A heliocentrist has the sun in the middle and all the planets spinning around it.
I
A
understand that. Yeah.
geocentrist, you put the Earth in the middle. Nothing else has changed. Nothing else has changed. Everything still spins and rotates and does, and you cannot tell the difference between heliocentric and geocentric from the Earth.
Right.
NASA uses geocentric. Okay. Everything uses geocentric because we are on the Earth. So we use Earth as the point of reference to everything else around us. So you still are going to have your seasons. Nothing has changed at all.
So you think the Earth goes around the sun still?
No.
Oh,
Sun,
okay.
no, I don't think the sun is as far away nor as big as what we're told. I don't
Oh,
believe,
okay.
I have a hard time believing that they've really even gotten into outer space because the tin cans that they send up there, I mean, when you take a submarine and you send it 1,000 feet below the surface, you've got an entire ocean of weight on there, and the submarine's got
Pressure. It's gonna.
5-inch thick armor on it. These nuclear submarines, like 5-inch thick steel, if not even thicker than that, to be able to go down that far. But apparently, the exact opposite forces, more than those forces out in space, pulling against an atmosphere inside your space capsule and your suit. But miraculously, these guys get up there with a tin can, and there's no problem. You know, if they didn't have it, if they didn't have their capsule pressurized or anything, you can kind of maybe see it. Maybe they could
But
do
there is
that. But
there
yeah,
is no pressure in space, though. There is
there's
no
vacuum.
pressure.
There's vacuum.
There. Yes.
R-
Okay. How do you
Right.
know?
I don't, because I've never been there, but that's what they tell me. See, I am told all of this
Yep.
science, and I say that that doesn't make any logical sense, and there's no way I can prove it. So therefore, I get to be a coconut
Okay.
because I say all these crazy things that I can't prove, but it's not it's like because I can't go to space. I'd like to be able to prove that rockets don't work in a vacuum, but problem is when you take all the oxygen and air out of a thing, a rocket doesn't want to light off. So my sources are limited. I don't get the oxygenated fuel that NASA has to prove that rockets don't produce thrust in a vacuum. But whatever, you know, these little. Anyways,
I can see your point.
sure.
Yep.
At the end of the day, geocentrism is no different than heliocentricity. It's just you're using the Earth as your focus point. You can, geocentricity may even still have a spinning Earth for all I know. My thing is that I'm going to say the Earth doesn't move, doesn't spin. It sits there. Bible says that it sits there. It can't be moved. I'm going to roll with that. And yeah,
Well, see, I think the Earth, in the biblical sense, represents Israel, and that's why it's unmoving.
yeah, it
But
could be.
it could
I
be.
don't,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't spiritualize it away because he's talking about Earth. And I know flat earthers use the one where the Earth is as a circle, and
Mm.
that's how they get their flat Earth deal. I'm aware of that. I'm not convinced on a lot of that, other than I know the ramifications if you were to suddenly. I mean, it's one thing in Genesis where you have the creation of the earth first, and then you start it going when you create the sun and the moon and everything, and you start it going when there's nothing there. But you have this whole problem of Joshua, where Joshua causes the sun and moon to stop. How does that happen? How does that happen? You'd
Only
have
God
you
can
make
can
you
do
make
that.
the you have to, in
Well,
order to
they
make the sun stop, if the earth is moving around the sun, in order to make the sun stop moving in the sky, you have to stop Earth.
yes, you do, or stop it rotating a little
Right.
bit.
A
Yes.
lot, because it was a couple of hours.
Yeah.
It says in the Bible how long it is, but that's not going to cause problems. A sudden stop, 2,000 miles an hour.
A sudden a sudden stop. Well, how do you know it wasn't a gradual
Even
stop?
still, all of the tides and all of the, according to science now, all of the tides and everything are based on the moon rotation and everything else. And if
Yes.
that stopped, then the whole world is just going kaput. However, if the sun is a lot smaller and it's rotating around us and the moon's rotating around us and those two stop, it makes no effect on us because we're already stopped. And again, if it was
I see your point. Yeah.
right, and if the Earth did stop, and so it looked like the sun had stopped, the moon would still be moving. So you'd stop the Earth and then you'd stop the moon. I don't know, because because the moon orbits around us. Just because we're not spinning anymore doesn't make any difference to the moon. So yeah, off into wild cuckoo. And if you don't
Interesting.
believe like me, you're lost.
Well, I think this is a great campfire discussion. That's what you
Yeah,
should do. Sit around a campfire and talk about this all night.
yeah. Buy my
Yeah.
bone broth.
I bought a telescope today.
You did? I took mine
Yeah,
out
a
yesterday.
small one. Did you?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, snow.
I got a Celestron like catadioptric, like 4-inch or something like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. It's a Celestron. A
Mhm.
Celestron. It was It's a very small one though. It's a travel one.
Mhm.
I think it's a 20 times and a 40 times,
Probably
and it
with your
has
lenses, yeah.
a 60 millimeter something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know telescopes, but I googled it before I purchased it, and
Mhm.
they you kind of get the specs, and it was in the middle of the specs, so
Sure.
I figured it should be a good one. I haven't used it
Well,
yet. There's no moon tonight, so
I have some really powerful stuff, and you know what? I spend the most time just looking at the moon because it's the most interesting.
yeah,
And if you have a super good telescope, all you can do is see a little dot in the sky a little better. Honestly, the only planets you can really see really really good is Jupiter, which is up right now, and Saturn, which is up right now. And then I think in the wintertime you can see Mars. But all the rest of the planets, I mean, I think I saw Venus once. But again, it's just a blip in the scope. Whereas if you look at
yeah,
the moon is
it's
fascinating.
cool. Yeah, yeah, especially before sundown
Hmm.
when the moon is kind of like orange
Hmm.
and it has that crest.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, right now, it's probably more visible for you than me, but both Jupiter at around 10 p.m. till middle of the night, both Jupiter and Saturn are pretty close, and they're in the same area in the sky. Really easy to find. The two brightest things you're going to see, and those are cool to look at. Be able to
Yeah.
see Jupiter and the four of the moons that are going around it, or supposedly. I don't even know what to believe anymore. They just, it's honest. When scientists are out there and guys like Michio Kaku and some other ones, and who was the other guy? It was Michio Kaku, was a mathematician, sort of philosopher guy, and he laughs at people who are in astronomy because they make judgments about things that are like many billions of decimals wrong. And he goes, if we're even like 0.01 or 0.001 wrong in our equations, we have to go back to the drawing board. But these guys in the stars, they just are like, whatever, it's close enough. Shows you. And he actually, it's true because he actually retracted that statement. How true, he knows these people, and he's probably is just shaking his head at them like these guys are just making stuff up. And I think that's what a lot of it is. And people are going to tell me, oh, it's 100 light years out to Alpha Centauri. It's like, how do you know that? Do you measure it or a tape measure? And they don't know. I don't know any of that stuff.
I don't know how they measure distance.
They
I
don't.
think it's probably distance, time, and
They don't.
distance. They don't.
They make up an equation that sounds good. And they in the case of the planets, then they pretend that they went there. I mean, the footage that they take is laughable. It looks like PlayStation 2. They've had this Mars rover up there for 10 years now. It's always looked like PlayStation 2. And it's like, come on. And you got Elon Musk who sent his Saturn up there or something, whatever his Tesla car. Like, come on. You look at that thing and it's like, it's real because it looks so fake. It's like, I'm not an idiot. And they asked him specifically, is there anything special about the car he sent up there? And he goes, nope, it's just a regular off the line car. And it's like, oh, okay. In deep space, absolute zero, 100% vacuum. And the car is just fine. It's just floating around with some guy in it or some dummy. I'm like, no, it's complete fabrication.
A straw
Complete
dummy.
lies. Complete lies about everything they were doing in space, and the space station footage on the NASA channel and all that's all fake. And you can tell it's fake. Guys running around on
Well,
wires.
some of it it's 50-50,
You think
or
so?
60-40. Oh
I think
yeah,
I
I
think the
think
stuff
it's
that's
both.
real is I think the stuff that's real they do in that Vomit Comet plane. But the things they can do with CGI nowadays, all right? The things they can do with CGI make things look seamless. And number one, the whole thing that they're doing on the space station is directed towards children, and they do like a Sesame Street type program on there, and there's NASA spending billions of dollars so these astronauts can go up there and do Sesame Street shows and stuff. I mean, come on. They're inserting computer graphics here and there, and they're doing all that stuff on the fly. It's a television production. There's nothing real going on there. And they
No,
have a
I think
life.
there's a.
You think
I
so?
think there's a space station. Sure, there is. The ISS. We were on it. Don't you remember?
Oh yeah, we went to the moon too back in 1960 something.
Oh, I made a
1960
video about that. You, myself, and Robert. We went up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was a good video.
I'm sorry we left you up there, though.
Yeah. Well, I'll be all right. I have my guitar.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't looked at chat at all, so I don't see anything that pops out for me. If you want to ask a question to us, you got to do the @ thing.
For some reason, I don't see chat. Like I can usually watch chat when I'm
You got to open a new window if you have the Google Hangout.
It's on my phone. Yeah, but I
Oh.
tap on it and I can't for some reason. It's full screen, and I don't know how to get to a smaller screen. So I'll just go on my phone.
I don't know. You don't want to look at chat anyway. People have some things to say about you.
About me? What? No. What happened to Brett? What happened to Brett's wrench? Did you ever
I
give
don't
him a
know.
wrench?
I don't think he ever had one.
Oh.
Yeah, he was a mod.
Well, I didn't take him off, so I have no idea. Nobody else has, as far as I know, unless my wife did something. I don't know. They're just. I just have a bunch of people that ban people. They should all have hammers, not wrenches. We don't try and fix anything. We just smack them in the head.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know, Brett. I'll shoot you the link if you want to come on too. All right, I forgot to even ask. You can, if you want to get your wrench back. I can't do that right now because I have too many open things. I'll have to moderate on your behalf.
I kind of like the wrench because you can tighten up the loose nuts.
Yeah. There's a lot of them.
I got to get up in about 5 hours.
Uh-oh.
That's okay, though. I just might not go to sleep, then I won't have to get up.
There you go. It's an easy way to do it.
That works.
King's Table at Max, even atheist Lawrence Krauss has said the geocentric model works. Well, of course it does. Has to. They just prefer heliocentric because I think it's because of the Bible. Well, everybody uses, for scientific reasons, everyone uses geocentric. Everybody. There's no reason to use heliocentric. So
explain to me how when you're filing a flight plan and you're doing a transatlantic flight, you have to correct for the rotation of the Earth. If you don't correct for the rotation of the Earth, you're not going to get to where your destination is.
That's one of the arguments to say that the Earth doesn't move, is because if you're traveling one direction, it should take you longer than traveling the other direction. And science says, no, because you're on the Earth, you're stuck to it. So it doesn't matter where you are. And then they always use, it's like you're a fly inside a car. So whatever but that a flight does not affect, doesn't matter if it's rotating or not, according to what the scientists say. What I will say about the flight, though, as an interesting thing is, if you want to maintain a level flight on a globe, you constantly have to pitch the nose down. And a lot of pilots are flat earthers because of that, because they know it's called a flat horizon because they are flying straight and level at the horizon and they're not dipping their nose down. You would have to, if you're going around a ball, you have to dip the nose down in order to continue around that ball.
That's why they make corrections, left correction or right correction, because
you hit the autopilot at 10,000 feet, stay at 10,000 feet, 350 knots, and she stays straight. Nothing moves. There is no correction because the correction you'd have to make is 8 inches per mile. All right.
That's at 10,000 feet max. I'm talking, flight level 3 times higher than that.
Well, even still, even then, it would probably be even more of a correction because it's 8 inches
It
per
is.
mile, 8 inches per mile squared down on Earth, right? And then if you get up higher, you're still gonna have to make corrections.
You do. Yep.
I mean, tilting the nose down. There isn't one pilot out there that says he tilts the nose down all the way through his flight. If you're going around Earth, you would have to do that, but you don't. So, yeah. The other thing too is you have a bendy water problem. Now I'm fighting for flat Earth. No, I'm not a flat earther, but you got this problem here where water doesn't bend, and then they'll say gravity, gravity, gravity. It's like, well, you can put they call it a plumb line for a reason. I mean, you could put a line out on the ocean if you didn't have the waves, and it would be flat. There is no bend in it, and it has to be for the math to work out at 25,000 miles around. Diameter of the Earth. You can calculate the radius. It has to be 8 inches per mile squared if the math they give us is right. So you should have every mile you got 8 inches, 8 inches, 8 inches, 8 inches. You should have a definite drop, but you don't. So we got some things with that. We got talking about all sorts of stuff. To talk about
Well, that's what the autopilot does.
Wow.
The autopilot makes
Let me
corrections.
tell you how the autopilot works
It's
on
not
a
the
gyro.
pilot flying the plane.
No. The autopilot works on a gyro compass. Okay. You know, a gyro compass works like a spinning top. Inertia takes control.
Yes, I know.
The gyro compass is completely separate from the airplane. And when you spin anything up to speed, I think they rotate at like 20,000 miles an hour, something like that, or 20,000 rotations per minute. It says, you're spinning this gyro. And what happens is it cannot move. It's really hard for that thing to move from a level plane. So that way you always know where your horizon is because it's level. The gyro cannot, the gyro cannot move.
Yes.
Everything moves around the gyro to know what your relative position is. And the gyro stands for the horizon. So if the Earth was curving, your gyro is going to stay flat. Okay. The gyro doesn't care what the Earth is doing. The gyro is always going to spin flat, always, because it's based on inertia. It has nothing to do really with gravity or anything else.
The Earth is bigger than you think.
Oh yeah. But I also know basic math. I mean, 8 inches per mile squared is not that difficult, and you got to make corrections and things. And like even building a bridge that's long enough, you're going to have maybe a couple of inches here and there. A mile isn't that long. There's a lot of half-mile bridges out there. They have a 10-mile long bridge in China going over through their islands and whatnot. So nobody ever accounts for it, ever. Any land survey people, they make everything flat. Anyways, that's just some of their arguments. And those are ones that I found that couldn't be debunked. The other one for flat Earth, the reason that I don't believe in flat Earth goes back to that astronomy thing, where
stars.
Yep. Yeah, the stars. You've got north and the north top of the hemisphere. We've got different stars
going one way,
and they're going opposite directions. Well, that only happens on a ball. So shows you how much we know in the flat Earth. And that pretty much wrecked their whole. If you cannot explain stars spinning opposite directions, then no, there's no flat Earth there. But that also means that everything that we're taught about the shape of the Earth is completely wrong. Maybe it's flat on both sides, like a coin, huh? It's a coin.
Donut.
You can dig my way to China. Donut. I think that would work too. I'd rather have a donut.
A hole in
donut Earth. I know at King's Table you had something. I don't know if I even read it yet. And to talk to us, you got to put the @ and then start typing Max, and it should come up with my name, and click that and then type your message, or at Jace or at JCI will come up with Jason, or at Valerie. So it pops out. And we've been carrying on here with geocentricity and not paying attention to comments here. Einstein said we cannot tell if the geocentric or heliocentric. It's all relative and untestable. Doesn't change what we observe either way. That's from AMTB. I will tell you this. They didn't know whether or not it was heliocentric or geocentric without it's like if two boats are circling in the water, or one is one of them wants to know who's staying still and who's moving, and you can't tell if you're circling around each other in the water unless you put your hand out the side of the boat and test. And they figured out a way to do that, where you can feel the water against your hand and see that you're moving. And they figured out a way to do that, and it's called boy, why do I not remember it off the top of my head like I normally do? Oh, it's an experiment that they tested where it showed that the earth does not move. And I'll think of it after I'm done answering it, but there's this thing that they were dealing with called the ether, which is the ether is what surrounds the earth. And everyone acknowledges, an electrical force or something. And everyone acknowledges that the ether existed for various different reasons. So they came up with an experiment to test, where the earth was moving in the ether or not. And they didn't came up with any results at all, regardless of where they tested it. And Einstein came out with relativity saying that the ether didn't exist. And that's why these equations work, because the ether, we can't show that we're moving. So we're going to throw out that we're going to throw out the ether, and that's where E equals mc squared comes from, him throwing that out. And now later on in life, I actually have the video on my channel where Einstein says that it's impossible that the ether does not exist. So that throws out and debunks his own mathematical science. And this is them arguing over geocentricity. And at some point, I have an entire playlist and lists of videos for geocentricity. And I have mine on there. Then it always goes back to the same few people that have yet to be refuted about us not moving. It's been tested and tested and tested. And the only thing more they could possibly do is take this guy's experiment and take it out into space and test it into space. And they're not going to do that. So yeah, that's about Einstein's stuff. Now that bothers me. I can't. Michelson and Morley. That's what it was. Michelson and Morley. Look that guy up. Them two up. They were actually going to prove that the Earth was moving with their experiment, and they failed in their experiment because they could not show that the Earth was moving at all. So in a sense, they proved that the Earth does not move. Brett says, I don't think the moon emits light. The shadows from waxing and waning show that. Well, the mainstream science acknowledges that the phases of the moon do not come from the shadow of the Earth. People repeat that, but even mainstream science says that the phases of the moon don't come from that. That doesn't mean that we're not on a ball. Because it used to be that you could, when you see, you've got the sun in the sky and the moon in the sky at the same time. How can that be? They're both in the same part of the sky. Well, you notice if you hold up like a tennis ball or something like that, the same exact shadow on your tennis ball is on the moon. So it doesn't matter if they're both in the sky at the same time. That was one proof set for a flat Earth. We're not on a Helios. Random guy, Jesus says Jonah got swallowed by a whale. And in the book of Jonah, he says he got swallowed by a fish. I'm confused on that. What version are you using? That would be what I say. Jesus says Jonah got swallowed by a whale. And okay, so Jesus says it was a whale. Well, whales are a fish. That's what I say. If they're both coming from the King James, then Jesus is being more specific and said he used a whale to swallow Jonah. And it wasn't some mythical creature. Regular old whale. Now, my guess is that just because we choose to call a whale a mammal and not a fish makes no difference to God. It swims in the water. It's got fins. It's a fish. Right? Right. Josie Ramos, what does the Bible say about flat Earth? Not much. The big verse that people go to is the one where it says, is it Isaiah? About the circle of the earth. Something like that, to that effect. And then, of course, there are places where it says that the earth is on pillars and it's not going to move. There's nothing that says that the earth is flat. There's a lot of good philosophical arguments for it, but there is nothing that definitely says it. I would argue that given our understanding of what people tell us for science, that it's geocentric. And I think the Bible supports geocentricity all the way. As far as flat Earth, no, not really. AMBT here, it's a Mickelson Morley. Thank you. Yep, I remembered it eventually. Had to short circuit a little bit first. Max, what's your favorite book in the Bible? Ecclesiastes or Jonah? I like Ecclesiastes, and I actually have been meaning to do a study on that for 3 months now. Because it's such a great thing. Is like Solomon was such a wicked guy, and why was he so blessed? And the point was to show you can live wickedly in all this and have everything in the world, and you're still not going to be satisfied. And you can vicariously live through them and show what happened to him. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, he didn't die some horrible death or anything like that, but he said it was everything that he did was vain. So it's really, really good reading, and it's an easy read, and Solomon's kind of a neat, interesting character, but I don't know how he did it with his 1,000 wives or whatever. You imagine how many children he had? But you have like 3 birthdays a day there. Got some pretty booked up.
What happened to Malachi? I thought you liked Malachi.
Malachi? Yeah, I did, but see, I switched because I used to Second Thessalonians. Second Thessalonians was my my big one for a long time. Second Thessalonians, and now I'm like in like First and Second Peter. I don't know. There's just too many that I like. Way too many that I like.
What's that?
Well, Jason's playing around with something, I think.
I'm not touching anything.
Oh, I don't know.
We get that a lot on Robert's channel too. On when we're talking to Robert.
Really?
There it is again. Yeah.
I don't know. Someone's trying to break into my.
Oh, maybe.
Break into my thing.
To hack you.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, Malachi. Boy, there's a lot of ones in here that I really like that people wouldn't suspect. And the problem is like with the Old Testament, I mean, like a lot of the Old Testament stuff is I can't find it again, because you're hearing about all these stories and all these people and all these generations. And it's like, I know who I'm talking about and what happened, but where it is in the Bible, I have no idea. Jonah is really easy. It's 4 pages and I know where that is. He's got his own book. I like Jonah. Final answer is gonna be Jonah, because that guy didn't think anything of grace when it was happening to him, but he had no grace for other people. And what did he get for it? Swallowed by a whale. Vomited it out. He sat in the stomach of a whale, eaten by stomach acid for 3 days, gets resurrected, probably skin bubbling up, crawls out onto the beach. All right, don't send me back to hell. I'll go preach your stuff. I ain't going to be happy about it. Yeah. Momentum. Solomon was considered the wisest man on earth. No, it's not considered. He was. Of course, the exception being Jesus Christ, but Jesus Christ was also God. He was fully man, fully God. But yeah, Solomon was gifted probably for the purpose to be the wisest man on earth, just so he could be an example to other people about how living by the flesh, even if you have everything. Solomon was never worried about anybody attacking him, anybody not liking him. They all needed his money. He got along with everybody. See, where David went around and he just conquered everybody and everyone was scared of David. Solomon came around and traded with everybody. And the reason he had so many wives was a lot of that was negotiations with other towns and stuff around where Jerusalem was. And so that's where a lot of those wives, he was more or less a peacemaker. He sold chariots to other people so they could go fight. That was his deal. Yeah, he was the smartest guy around. However, anybody can pray for wisdom, and God guarantees it. If you ask for wisdom, he'll grant that to you. Probably not as much as what was given Solomon, but we need all the help we can get, even if it's just a little bit. Hey, Max, probably not a good idea to throw your welder on the ground because you're mad at it. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Book of relief for the stars of heaven and constellations thereof shall not give light. Sun shall be darkened going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. So Book of Relief is pulling up the verse that I'm talking about in Joshua. I'm pretty sure it isn't actually in Joshua is the one requesting it. I don't know if that's in a later, if it's in one of the other books, or if it is actually in Joshua. Like I said, the Old Testament, a lot of it kind of rolls together with me. How big is a whale's stomach? Pretty big. You ever see that? If you look up a blue whale, is ginormous, like 10 tons, and maybe even more than that. They're huge. But most people most people, when they immediately write off the book of Jonah as being just a fairy tale or something that's figurative, right? Sort of like the rich man and Lazarus or something like that. They'll figuratively say it's just a nice story they told or a parable. Well, and the main reason is because Jonah couldn't survive inside a fish or a whale or whatever for 3 days. Well, I don't think people take into consideration the guy died. He didn't survive. And they don't think that he died because he was calling to God from hell. Well, his spirit didn't get killed. His physical body did. So, of course, God heard his prayers, and God wasn't going to send him to hell permanently anyway. He was just teaching him a lesson. It's like, you want these Ninevites to go where you're at right now? Is that what you want? Yeah, it was one of them kind of deals. Was Solomon saved? Yes. Solomon built the Jewish temple. The first one. Bible says the moon has her own light, and I believe that. I don't believe for a second that is the sun's reflection off the moon. Random guy. Any whale? I don't know. You can look up whales on Google. They got pictures and everything on this internet thing. I don't know. Brett, in the military, when you fire east and west, you have to adjust for the rotation of the earth. If fire north to south, not corrected. If not corrected, you can be off the target for 6 feet or more. Brett, that's something that might be in the books, but if you actually talk to people who do this stuff for a living, for instance, firing, big batteries on sea and stuff like that, they don't correct for any of that. They might say that the computer does it, but as far as the people that I've talked to, no one is correcting for anything. You've got windage. And when the longer distance that you shoot, the more windage is going to be a problem in the accuracy of the round and all of that stuff. What makes a bigger difference is the velocity of the round and how fast the projectile spins to go through the air. The rotation of the earth, and nobody ever calculates that. Momentum 1, 2, 3. How do you understand the book of Revelation? I heard Bible scholars can't even figure it out at Max Bauer. Yeah. There are some things you can understand in the book of Revelation because the book itself tells you what they are. It says the 7 candlesticks are 7 churches. Or when you're talking about the beast and the false prophet and things like that, it tells you who these characters are. So there is a lot that you can understand in the book of Revelation. Not all of it. That's definitely the hardest book where, there are a lot of cults and stuff that have it all figured out backwards and forwards. And there are some other ones out there that say it's already happened. But yeah, I don't know. There are a few people who look at Revelation and get, you can get something out of it. Chuck Missler does like a 40-hour thing. He does like 2 hours per book. And I don't remember, what is there, 24 chapters for Revelation? "22 chapters." So he must be 2 hours per book for every chapter of Revelation. I think he has a 2-hour thing on it, and that's easily findable on Google. So if you really want to study Revelation, Chuck Missler goes all the way through it. Is he right about everything he says? I have no idea. I'd say no, because a lot of the stuff they even say is conjecture. And Chuck, just so you know, Chuck Messler's a guy who was on the committee for approving the new international version. So you can guess where some of his ideas are. He's one of those guys, but he does know a lot about the Bible.
I like Chuck
Brett, your
Missler.
dad did it for a living, and he told you about it.
Yep.
Coriolis effect is a thing, yeah. And a lot of people like to talk about that, but I haven't talked to anybody who brings any of that into account. I think maybe he's pulling your leg. I don't want to say that for sure, but
Nope, he's not.
What logistically happens is you have your little computer thing, and your spotter puts his little stencil on the computer thing and says he wants fire there, and it goes to the commander shooting the artillery round, and it goes fire there, and it automatically moves the gun, and you tell the guy to fire. You can say the Coriolis effect is in there, whatever's, but no, it's like they already have everything gridded out, and all of their correction for stuff isn't based on how the Earth is spinning. It's based on the fact that they've already plotted out exactly the terrain and how far in the distances and how much powder and how much angle and everything to hit something in there, because they've got planes overhead all the time. And then all they're calculating in is windage, which is going to be farther than 6 feet. If you have your windage off, you can be off by half a mile if you're shooting 10 miles out. Easy rotation of the Earth. To me, if they're going to say that Coriolis effect has a difference of the rotation of the Earth is going to affect a bullet traveling that far, then how come it doesn't affect anything like planes? How come it doesn't affect trains?
Because planes correct for it.
Okay, you can go back to planes correcting for it, but we'll just take anything traveling at a high velocity in a straight line. Why is the Coriolis effect not there in a super train that does 200 miles an hour in France in a straight line? Why is there no Coriolis effect?
Because they're on a track.
You're going to have shifting, right? It's inertia. Coriolis effect is inertia, is what they're saying. But Coriolis effect only exists in people's imaginations. That's my contention, because the perfect example of Coriolis effect is called the Foucault pendulum, which has been debunked left and right and center. The Foucault pendulum that proves the Coriolis effect and the rotation of the Earth. And when the people who run that thing out in England, it's a big pendulum. They say that they have a motor that keeps it running. Okay, it's not. That's the only proof that we are moving. The Earth is moving and spinning, is a pendulum that dangles from the ceiling, that they actually have to hook a motor up to make it work. Okay, that's their proof. And then, the other proof is that when you pour something down the drain, the direction of the whirlpool, which you can make a whirlpool go either way. It doesn't matter what hemisphere you're on. You got that too. But yeah, Brett, the train is grounded. I don't know.
See, that's what I said. It's on a track.
It doesn't matter if it's on a track. A bullet could be on a track too. Right?
Well,
you're going to have the same forces on it regardless. It doesn't matter if you're going through air or what. If you're on a track, it's the same rotational force.
Okay.
Yeah. There we got it. We're gonna cover everything except the Bible today. Everything. Got welders and artillery pieces, and yeah. I don't know. Am I gonna do Max Dungslinger videos in the future? I'm not ruling them out. It's not high on my list. I've been putting out more content than I actually did previously, and I don't have a ton of time for stuff. Anytime I do those, I have to take multiple takes and go to locations and stuff like that, and then edit everything together in a somewhat meaningful way. And I just don't care that much about Brian anymore. Even then, when I was doing it, I was just kind of poking fun at him just to get a rise. Yeah. Dungslinger. I mean, I'm not ruling it out. Brett, how about the Cubs? I don't know. I'm not a baseball fan. I'm not a fan of anything. I'm old and crotchety now. I'm in my 40s. That's it. I'm done. Now I just get to sit home on my porch and kick kids off my grass. Someone saying hi, Jason. Book of Relief. Yeah. So I don't know. Val, you got to go to work, and I've been on for like I don't even know how long. What, an hour or something like that? 100 minutes. Oh wow, almost two. I'm really milking. I've only got 15 minutes according to them. 25 minutes left that I can live stream before it all goes bye-bye.
Oh,
It
oh,
might
you should.
go by Pacific time
Yeah.
because YouTube are based in Los Angeles.
So that means I'm already broke the rules. I'm in the future.
Oh,
Look at that. They were lying. The prophecy of the stars didn't align. What was that? September 23rd prophecy? Google Hangouts didn't come. I don't
yeah.
know.
I think you should stay on till you just dissolve.
No. It's getting late here. Anyone questions for anybody? Otherwise, we're going to be done. Look for my Bible basic stuff, Joseph, coming out probably tomorrow. One of my favorite stories. And then, who knows? Maybe Exodus. I don't know. Maybe. I kind of want to go somewhat in order, but
Joseph and his brothers.
yeah, I covered Jacob and Esau, and that covered Jacob's kids, I think. I don't remember anymore. I do these things like, and then what happens is I do them, and I do like 3 of them at a time, and then I have to go back and edit them and put the whole thing together. So they sit there for like a week, and in the meantime, I'm doing other videos, so I don't even remember what it was. But yeah, Jacob and Esau. I did that, and then I covered the children in that, and then on this one was just covering Joseph, because he's kind of the only one that counts. Yeah, you got these other guys too. But really the primary reason that the Jews were in Egypt for so long, because as soon as Joseph's story is done, you're right into Exodus, where they're murdering babies. They're like, what happened between Joseph and Jacob and all them getting the best land in Egypt, and Joseph being equivalent to Pharaoh in all regards, except lineage, like not being able to hand off your power, to going into Exodus where they're murdering children. It's quite a jump there. So we covered Joseph pretty well, and I like Joseph's story of Joseph.
I haven't seen it, but it's a good what do they call it? A typology of Christ. Joseph's story of Joseph.
You think so? I never thought about it
and
as a typology.
Israel. Yeah. You're talking about Joseph, right? And
Joseph and his brothers.
Yes.
Joseph, the one they sold into slavery, to
slavery to Egypt. Yeah. It's a typology of Christ.
Okay, well, I hadn't studied that. I didn't consider it a picture of Christ when I read it, but I guess. I mean, he does redeem him in the end, I guess.
I think about that next time you read it.
Okay.
Just saying.
Valerie's going to school me on the Bible now.
I know. I'm older than you are.
Yeah, are you?
Yeah, I read it. I've read it longer.
Yeah, by what, a month or two? Josie Ramos, blessings to all. Thank you, Valerie, Max Bauer, and Jason. Blessings to you also. Lock the door. Jesuits are coming. Yep.
No, you don't have to lock the door. You got a shotgun, don't you?
Yeah, around here someplace. Do you know what a unicorn was in the book of Job? Rhinoceros. That's most people say. It certainly isn't. I don't really know exactly what it was referred to as a unicorn. We talked earlier about, God considers a whale a fish because it lives in the water and has flippers, right? It's a fish. Whatever we decide to classify it, whatever. What I do know is a unicorn, how they figured out it was a horse with a horn on its head. and wings? No. No. That's a pagan thing. I mean, I don't know where people come up with that, where you get this Pegasus creature. That's your unicorn. No, the Bible is more than likely just a creature that had one horn. Whether or not that was something that doesn't exist anymore, or if it was just a rhinoceros. I mean, I don't know, honestly, if rhinoceroses live where Job lived. I don't know. Anything about it. Horse with a horn. No, it is not. So anyways, that's what we got. All right, guys. And Max finds similarities between Benjamin and Paul is pretty good. If you want to look into that, yeah, we'll check it out. All right, guys. Well, we're gonna bail. We're gonna close it out. And who knows
Good
what's
night.
gonna happen with live streams. Thanks, Valerie. Thanks, Jason. Thank everyone for showing up for my last Google Hangout live stream. Yay.
Hooray!
Woohoo. All right. Good
Boo.
night. God bless.
Good night.